Ask Krista to see if she can.
Can we just get a sound check just set? Or Anne, will you just do a hand raise if you guys can hear us okay?
And the recording? Yeah, it's all set. Okay, good. Thank you. And roll call, please.
Great. Starting, and then just to inform the committee, we will not have Director Hilliard or Chief Pomey today. We do have a quorum present in the room, so we will not need to take a roll call vote. Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Monday, May 11th meeting of the Marin Wildfire Prevention Authority's Finance Committee. Beginning roll with Director Goins.
Roll call? Yes, here.
Director Kurtz.
Here.
Director Finn.
Here.
Director White.
Here.
And Dan Schwartz from Larkspur.
Right, thank you. Any agenda adjustments? Seeing none. Okay, open time public expression. Public is welcome to address the Finance Committee at this time on matters not on the agenda that are within the jurisdiction of the committee. Please be advised that pursuant to Government Code Section 54954.2, the committee is not permitted to discuss or take action on any matter not on the agenda. Comments may be no longer than 2 minutes and should be respectful to the community. Please silence your cell phones during the meeting. Mute your microphone when not reporting out. We have one item on consent calendar, which are the minutes from 2025. Did anyone have a chance to take a look?
And
Any
then just to inform you, Director Hurst, there were no hands raised at the open time for public expression.
Okay.
Just to note for the minutes.
Thank you. Just moving right along. All right. On the consent calendar, there's no questions. We have a motion?
I'll move to approve. Second.
Okay. First and second.
And that's a first a motion by Director Finn with a second from Director Goins. All in favor?
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? There are no abstentions and we have 2 absences. Motion passes.
Thank you. All right. Move it over to Director Brown.
Good morning. I'll keep my report really, really brief since we had an exec and ops last week. We'll have board next week. But I'm just going to repeat something I said at exec, and I'll say it again at the board. Building our work plan this year was very, very difficult. Building the budget was very, very difficult. And I make the argument that it should be difficult. We're dealing with $23 million of the taxpayers' dollars, and we have a very important mission. Therefore, it should not be easy. And I appreciate every member agency, every bit of time that they put into it. And at the operations committee meeting last week, I ended with voicing my appreciation and admiration for all of the member agencies and their staff and the work plan that they developed and the budget they developed. When I look at the suite of projects that are going into 26, 27, I'm amazed with not only the amount of work, but the quality of the work that we were doing. So I'll leave it with that.
Okay. Any questions? Mark, no comments? All right. I think we're good. I don't think we do public comment on that one, do we? Nope. All right, we're moving on. Okay, so now, Mark, are you gonna walk us through?
I am going to walk us through, and this is a little bit awkward that we're doing the closeout for fiscal year 24-25 at the same meeting that we're talking about the 26-27 budget. But as we've discussed at numerous board meetings, we've had some staffing challenges at Southern Marin Fire. We had departure of some employees and then bringing on contract personnel, playing a little bit of catch up. A lot of catch up actually. And then also we had some technical difficulties where our project tracking spreadsheets weren't linking up with our software database and normally the financial software in the way that it normally did. So it caused a tremendous amount of delays. I want to thank Gisette and Karen, the team that Southern Marin Fire brought in to help us catch up. And so that is why we are showing our budget closeout for 24-25. Normally we would have done this in October, November. That's why we're doing it now. The main, and I'll share my screen, the main attachment that is really the one to look at the most for this particular item, I feel, is attachment C, which I'm going to share eventually once I click on the right There we go. That's the one I want. And this is where we can walk through what the preliminary budget was, where we underspent and or overspent, and then what the rollovers were, whether they were a positive rollover or a negative rollover, and how that affects the revised budget. So I hope I won't go line by line in here, but it really was, none of this was a surprise for us. We had been doing a really good job of tracking through this, and we knew these were the likely to be the numbers, but it just took some while to catch up to it. So I'll pause and ask if you guys have had any opportunities to take a look at it, and if there were any items that popped up for questions, then I can address those.
Any questions regarding the rollovers? Bruce? Anyone? No?
I do have a question that doesn't appear in any of these budget sheets is what is our reserve and where does it reside?
So we have two reserves. We have a rolling reserve, and then we have a restricted reserve. They reside in dedicated accounts within our Bank of America account. Our rolling reserve is we make sure that we don't drop below $4 million in our fund balance at the end of June. And then our restricted reserve is 2.1 million. And both of those, we've been able to stay on track with that.
Okay, and then a question that I have, Mark, is, and for the team here, do we have written policies regarding the reserves?
Yes, we
What
do.
those reserves are for? And
We do.
The rolling reserve of $4 million, that's, but how many months operating expenses? I know that we reduced it, and then
We reduced the restricted reserve from 3 million to 2.1. The rolling reserve of 4 million is more than adequate for us to be able to continue until we get our first tax dump from the county.
Okay. Do we have written policies that reflect that? I haven't been able to find them.
Yeah, we have a restricted reserve policy.
Okay. If I look again, I can't find them. I can ask you please to send me a copy.
You bet.
Okay, thank you.
And then actually, I did get ahead of myself by showing, I did want to show one other thing today. And that is I'm kind of mad at myself right now. It's a really important detail. And that is part of the measure language says that after 5 years, we needed to be able to show that we spent 80% of the revenue that was collected in each zone in that zone. And if we did not meet that within 5 years, we were going to have to use the next 5 years to catch up to that. So I'm going to roll through that. I hope most of the staff report was self-explanatory, but I want to show this table right here that shows where we are at with spending for each of the zones. And so we have met that 80% requirement. You'll notice that 2 of the zones are actually over 100%. And that's because of, for Novato, the $2.6 million grant that we received from CAL FIRE is included in that. Even without the $2.6 million grant, Novato would be over 80%. And then in the West, that we've been flexing some of our financial resources to the West by pulling it from some of the other budgets. So very excited to report that we have met that guideline that was in the JPA language. And then you'll notice that we've kind of met we've hit our stride, we've hit our max production, and for the most part, we are spending the amount of money that we receive each year. There's still about 1.9 million out there that I want to amplify our work because that was from fiscal year 2, our second fiscal year. We had about a $4 million, $4 million underspend, and we've been chipping away at that. The underspend that we had from our first fiscal year, we've been using that as our rolling reserve that Director Goins was asking about. We want to spend down the unspent that we had from our second fiscal year. We're about halfway through that, if that makes sense. Yes, Dan.
When you say we, though, you're talking about core money for Marin Wildfire?
Yes.
So on this chart, is this This is core money?
Core money, yes.
Okay, and this was 24, 25. Are you seeing similar trends for the current fiscal year?
As far as the pace for our spend and level of effort work,
Yeah.
yes, we're about the same trend.
And then listening to what you said, so you have this table tells me there's 2.5 million of taxpayer money that this was sitting around at the end of the last fiscal year. Has it now been spent and put to good use?
We're each work plan where you've been building that 2.5 into it. We just have not gotten to the pace where we're able to spend it down, but we are increasing that workload each year.
Okay. I mean, I guess it's not really the finance committee to be concerned about it, but if I was a board member, I'd be alarmed that 2.5 million didn't get put to work. So I guess as a finance committee member, my message would be I'd be okay with spending this money. This agency is not supposed to sit on money.
We're doing our best, and I'll pass that message along to, and it really is to the member agencies that we need to ramp up a little bit more to get that spent down.
Yeah, I mean, it should be a strong message, right? I mean,
Yes.
you're starting to have to strategize about renewal, and as a taxpayer, I hate seeing a lot of money that I agreed to see put into projects sitting in bank accounts.
I agree.
Yeah, I agree as well. I think one of the things that I've learned is in some cases, it wasn't as because of they're waiting for the sequas and everything else, just in terms of the timing, some of it didn't get spent, but I agree, we do need to spend it down directly to the zones. I have one other follow-on question around the 80%. Is that a rolling 5 years, or do we do that was the first 5 years and then it's the second 5 years, or is it rolling?
We've been calculating it every single year. The number that you see there is the rolling 5 years, but we still shoot for that as our goal each year. And just to give a little bit of context, if we're speaking of core dollars, if you would say in the 5 years that this budget report talks about, we've had $100 million in revenue from Measure C. 60% of that is core. So that makes $60 million of core dollars. The 2.5 that is unspent accounts for 4% of the core. So as much as we don't want the 2.4, 2.5 unspent, having that mean 4%, that actually, to me, that's a pretty strong level of effort. So it's not that much of an increase that we have to create to start spending that down a little bit more effectively.
Bruce?
If I just make a comment, Mark, thanks for the comment regarding the 2.5, and I share the concern. And I know that we're building out this organization. We've added staff in certain places, but my question is, do you think there's a structural issue or a process issue that could be part of this? Something that we can take to the retreat when it happens? You say that to send the message, but the question is beyond the message, some palpable action that may be taken to resolve this in the coming years. It's a question and a comment, Mark.
Yeah, definitely something that can be reviewed during our retreat. Both at the operations is going to have one more retreat, and then we'll pass that data from operations to the board. But I think Director Kurtz's comments are well taken when it comes to the CEQA compliance. And I used the Greater Ross Valley Shaded Fuel Break. There's a good 4 months that we're not allowed to do any of the work on it. So some of it has to do with that, but still 4% of our budget, of our core budget, has not been spent in 5 years. And so, yeah, I want to catch up on that, but I also want to recognize that 54 million, or actually 58 million has been spent, or 57.5 million has been spent.
I also don't want to just spend to spend and have it be very deliberate. If we go back to that Schedule C that you had, the attachment C,
There you go.
I think it highlights the fact the majority of that rollover is in the shaded bright So that's where we need to think about, like, if there's something else there, I don't want to, and again, it may be unacceptable to have that 2.5 or it may not. But I'd be more concerned if that 2.5 was sitting in equipment, something else.
Exactly. 1 million was in the shaded fuel breaks and 474,000 is in evacuation route clearing.
So I think those might be explainable in terms of the timing issues. But okay. Any other questions on this?
No, it's just clear that there's work yet to be done
Yeah.
and that money is going to be spent. I think that's a point, a take-home point. There is work yet to be done and money will be spent.
Totally agree. Dan?
I agree with all those comments, but the agency made a decision to run rolling fund balances. And when you make that decision and then you keep pumping money into the same activities instead of spending down the prior year, you just keep carrying the rolling amount forward. That's why rolling is not necessarily the ideal way to be running the organization. If we were doing project accounting, which I'm quite hopeful your new accountant is I know he's more than capable of doing, we could approach this differently. Because to me, if you're carrying balance forward, there's no reason to give you more money until you spend the money that you have. And I think that's why some of this money's not getting spent down.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. All right. Other questions or things you want to call out on this?
Yes, I just wanted to just quick view of these pie charts here that shows where the spending is going, and it really is where we are balancing the spending in the way that I feel we should, and a good balance between veg management, home hardening. One of the concerns that we've received over and over is that we're not putting enough of our budget towards defensible space, home hardening, and on property. But if you look at the amount that we are spending between our D-space inspection program, that's just about 4.5 million, and the 2.55 million that goes towards home hardening and grants, and then our direct assistance, nearly 50% of our budget is going towards on parcel work. So I really think that's an important message.
Okay. All right. This is an action item.
With the action is for you guys to recommend that the board approve this next at our next meeting.
Any other questions or a motion? Do we need to go public comment? Any public comment?
And if there are any members of the public who would wish to speak on the current agenda item, the end of year fiscal report and general fund rollover and closeout. There are no hands at this time.
Okay. If I could have a motion, please.
I'll move that we we approve this 2024-25 budget. Or the allocations, the closeout,
Close out and roll over.
the closeout. I'll get it right.
All right.
Prior to seconding, I don't have my glasses, apologies. But one of the attachments here, which is the FY27 budget, preliminary budget.
We haven't gotten to that.
Okay,
agenda
I just
item
want to
yet.
make sure that.
Yeah,
just
we're gonna
one at a time.
One at a time.
Okay, thank you. Go
All
ahead.
right. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay.
That was a motion by Director White with a second from Director Finn to approve the end of fiscal year 24-25 closeout and general fund rollover with a recommendation for rollover funds for 25-26 year and approval of the revised 25-26 budget to the Board of Directors.
Great.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? And there are 2 absences and no abstention. Motion passes.
Thank you. All right. Now this year's budget.
And I'm getting to my staff report that I could pull up, and I'll just walk through the main items of the staff report real quick and then switch over to the sheet that Bruce has in his hands. Just as a reminder of how we build our budget framework, we take the last year's revenue. Being a property tax square footage, our revenue is very, very stable. So we add, this year we had a 2.5% COLA. We add that, and that's how we come up. And then we estimate $200,000 for interest. And that brings us to a $23,551,370 budget. And then that's where the whole work plan process goes into place. Reminder that we have the 20% that goes to D-space evaluation and local mitigation projects. And then we have the framework for the 60%, and that's our core budget. Generally gets broken down into these categories that you see here. And so when I go
You
to
can share.
this is 6 years into this. You think I would have, I need a stronger cup of coffee.
Yeah, all good. All good.
Thank you, Rachel. The numbers I probably don't need to show back to you guys, but just you guys saw them in the staff report. There was the 22,000 that was our last year's, added 2.5 plus interest. That gives us our 23,551, 370. And then 20% to D-space and local. And then these are the broad categories that our 60% gets broken down into. Now, going into the staff report or the sheet that Bruce had in his hands, this is the proposed budget. It shows you the preliminary budget from last year, the what our actuals are so far for this year, what the rollovers were for 25. We didn't compute that we were having this is where some of the technical challenges we were having with the spreadsheet. It was not computing over what the revised 26 budget, but you guys just saw that in attachment C previously. And then these are based on the work plan, the recommended amounts that especially in the core program, what the operations committee approved at Thursday's meeting to move forward. So the core program is 12.7 million. And then 4.7 is our D-space program, 4.7 million for our local, and then our administrative costs, again, capped at 10% of our core program. Financial administration services will transfer from Southern Marin to San Anselmo this year. At the board meeting on Thursday of next week, we'll have a professional services agreement for the board to approve between Marin Wildfire and the town of San Anselmo. Then at our first meeting of the fiscal year is when the board will vote for San Anselmo to be our treasurer. We just wanted to have the professional services agreement in place for that vote to occur. Then our legal services, we've been staying underneath our cap of our legal services, but I am in favor of continuing to roll those over in case we have some type of litigation that comes forward. We have a little bit of a fund balance to go into there. Personnel, we've been very conservative with our personnel. Again, and only 3 personnel are the executive officer, planning program manager, and management analysts that are covered in the admin budget. Service and supplies and professional services balances out for the rest of the admin budget. And I can take any questions.
Any questions?
Chief, what would be the prospective start date for the transfer of the financial and administrative services to the town of San Anselmo?
Great question. And Gisette and Karen and I have been talking about it. And technically day 1 for San Anselmo will be July 1. However, we are going to be spending the rest of May and the bulk of June as the transition period between Southern Marin as the finance team and San Anselmo. And Gisette and Karen are absolute professionals and want to hand off a very clean package to San Anselmo and not have them have to pick up any pieces.
Thank you. A couple more in the category of administrative costs, if I could.
Yeah.
One is, and by the way, that's congratulate you on trending down the cost of financial administrative services moving to San Anselmo. It's a big help. over $70,000 a year. Legal services to me is near and dear, but I use it as kind of a leading indicator of where things might be going because it's so unpredictable. Though we're also trending down there, which I think is helpful as well. But we never know what's coming, so I wouldn't want to underfund legal services should we get hit with litigation or something. Although I'm happy about the direction it's going. Professional services, however, has gone up a bit. Does that include the political consulting that the agreement we entered into with Mr. Heath, I believe? Is that
Yes,
his name?
Team Civex.
Okay. That's it. Thank you.
Other questions?
Mark, yeah, thanks for the presentation and the summary. I was just looking at the preliminary FY27 budgets, and there are a couple of line items that I find just to question. That line 6140, which is the countywide grant program, it's a substantial proposed increase, $500,000. Is that really where, is that as a result of requests from ops and team in response to board commentary? Can you just explain that, please?
That 1.4, that increase includes the other grant programs that other agencies are putting money toward.
Okay, thanks. That's new now that
It's categorized, it's been bulked into that same.
okay,
category.
thank you. I did.
Yes.
I know that those other agencies. And then secondly, line 6190, which is the staffing, it's a $430,000 decrease. Can you explain what's going on there, please?
This isn't just Marin Wildfire employees, it's also the member agency employees, and some of them have moved where funding from core into local. And so it decreases the core encumbrance.
Okay, so it's an illusion.
It's just coming out of it. It's coming out of one of the 20% instead of one of the 60%.
Okay. And then my other comment, relative to my first comment today, is why are we not showing reserves in the budget?
We show that in the our monthly reports. We'll show you where the fund balance is.
Okay, I mean, I just think that it is a budgeted item, and I think that it should be identified as a fiscal year line item every single year.
Note
I
taken.
request that you increase this for the restricted reserve and then the other reserve, please, just for my information, public information also.
Gotcha.
Thank you.
And I had a follow-up question around the insurance. Because I know we increased our amount, but now I'm curious what's going on with that.
Actually, that's a good question. That 82 that is on the contingencies, it's actually in the wrong line. It should be down at the insurance.
Okay.
Thank you for catching that.
And then, so then what would be contingencies?
We're using the rollover from last year for contingencies.
Okay.
Not recommending any of fiscal year 26, $27 going towards our contingency budget. It'll just be the rollover from 25, 26.
Okay. And then I haven't had a chance to see, I don't know if the video is posted up from the last ops meeting on the public education. So is that 1.6?
That's also inclusive of member agencies requests, but operations, after listening to the presentation from Fire Safe Marin, they were not comfortable with the cuts and the loss of services at the 1 million. So after robust conversation, the operations committee unanimously approved 1.25 million for Fire Safe Marin, 200,000 of it coming from the pending communications coordinator position, and then 50,000 we took from Chipper Days. And then we are going to work with the operations. There will be an ad hoc subcommittee of the operations committee for me to defend why we need to have a communications coordinator and where I can find funding for that. There are some ideas of either using unanticipated revenue, whether it was more property tax than we anticipated or more interest than we anticipated, and use that to potentially, if the operations subcommittee feels that the communications coordinator is pertinent, and then they would make that recommendation to the full ops committee, then they would make a full recommendation to the board for that.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Other questions?
Just one. So Mark, again, on the public education, you're capturing Novato's public education work and San Rafael's public education work along with MWPA. So that's the
That's
total package.
all of it,
Okay.
yes.
Thank you. It's been so long since we've been together as
Yeah.
a team and taken a look at these and discussed what they're composed of. That's helpful to me. Thanks very much.
Yeah.
Other questions on this item? No? All right. Do we have any items, questions from the public?
I see no hands at this time.
Okay. Anything else? If not, can we have the committee make a motion in second?
I would move that we approve item 7B as stated in the agenda, please.
Second.
Okay, first and second. All in favor?
Aye.
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 No opposed? All right, we're good to go. Thank you. And so then this will move forward to the board for the board meeting.
Correct.
Okay. Update on, you sort of gave the update on committee reports for operations committee. I think that was it.
Yep.
Was that anything else to add on that?
No, just strong support for each of the zone proposals. Like I said, I'm impressed with the suite of projects that we have moving forward.
Great. Okay. Any other questions regarding the operations committee update? Bruce?
I just have a comment. I do serve on the Novato Finance Committee, and our roles and responsibilities are fairly broad and inclusive, and we meet pretty much quarterly to address incoming budgets, then ongoing discussions. I would like to ask, do we have, we established this committee, I remember, years ago, and wrote roles and responsibilities, but I would just ask maybe for some, how to say, clarification regarding what our role is beyond approval of this initial budget, advancing it to the full board. Would someone please enumerate on other responsibilities that we could be taking on, and I'm happy to make some suggestions, but
And it's not a board or it's not an agenda item, so we probably shouldn't go too deep in it today. But
Good.
we do have bylaws that we can definitely address next time. And you guys probably feel a complete absence in your role recently, because normally we would have had an October, November meeting to cover the budget adjustment and a revised budget for 25, 26. We also would have had a meeting in March for the budget framework, the very beginning of the process. And that's also when we've been addressing any policy updates. Again, with the challenges that we're having with that transition, those two meetings did not occur because we simply were not prepared for them. So that's one of the reasons why you're feeling like an absence in your role.
Yeah, I'd add that, I mean, we sort of just moved into future agenda items, so I'd put that under future agenda items as
Perfect.
having a calendar. I think we need to go back to having that finance calendar that we haven't had for a while of when we should meet.
Yeah, I'd be happy. It's actually in our budget planning policy, the calendar. So I'll the next meeting I can share that.
We can bring that back up. And I do think bylaws, and I think one of the bylaws that we might want to look into is looking at around single source vendors, and also when we would want to look at having an RFQ and RFPs.
And that's in our procurement policy. Happy to bring it.
Yeah, I think both of those we should look at and review.
Sure.
Great, thank you. Anything else? Yep, please.
Thank you.
Not strictly finance related, but in Sleepy Hollow, we have a local grant program, and it's quite different qualitatively and quantitatively from the other patchwork of grant programs that are in the local jurisdictions. And that seems to be, based upon anecdotal information I've been receiving, the source of some frustration. People call Marin Wildfire to find out about the grant. It differs greatly from their local grant, and they want to navigate the differences as best they can to maximize the resources that are available to them. I'd like to just plant the seed that in the long term, it would be helpful, I think, and pleasing to the public to try to standardize the grants programs, the various programs a little bit. I noticed, we have the arrangement with San Rafael, which is different, which I believe is now sort of a refund program, as opposed to, for example, the Sleepy Hollow program, where we will actually hire and pay the contractors to do the work, and not ask the residents to submit receipts or obtain a refund in that way. I'm not criticizing any other jurisdiction's program, just that it's a patchwork that is contributing to a little bit of confusion and frustration on the part of the public.
I agree, a lot of confusion.
That strikes me as a retreat issue.
Yeah,
Mhm.
great. Okay. Let me just go one more time to public comment. We sort of mushed a couple things together between the committee reports and future agenda items and other things. Is there any public comment?
There Southern Marin Fire representative,
Oh.
our finance rep, Josette. Give me just a moment. Josette, you should be able to you should be able to speak.
Yes, I just wanted to make a quick
Oh,
comment.
just a
that-
moment, Josette. We cannot hear you in the room. Give me just a second.
Can you hear me now? Hello?
We cannot hear you. They're working on it. I'm sorry, Josette, we cannot hear you. They're working on it.
Okay.
No, we can't.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Wonderful. Yes, I just wanted to make a quick statement to let you know that Mark is correct that we did have some issues compiling the preliminary FY27 budget. Those columns that were blank will be filled in, just basically transferring over those columns for your rollover and your FY26 revised budget. So I just wanted to make that note that it may not look exactly the same when we get to the board, because we will go ahead and fill it in, but your preliminary budget will not change.
Great. Thank you for that update.
Thank you.
Any other questions, comments? All right, we are adjourned, and then you'll be at the board meeting on May 21st. I apologize, I will not be at that board meeting. Mayor Kate will be representing for San Rafael. Great, thank you. All right, we are adjourned.
Thank you. Thanks, Mark.